are reports. The Browns have not released their official 53-man roster. I don't expect them to until later in the day. I'm sure they're still taking phone calls from teams.
Sure.
There are some names that we thought we might see that aren't on this list. Perhaps they're trying to still work trades. They have till 4 o'clock today to submit that list.
Right, even if a guy is reported to be cut, he's probably not officially cut. So
exactly.
But the names we've heard that you would know right now, John Kelly, Johnny Stanton, and Josh Rosen are the three names.
Those are the big ones. Stanton, I think, is the big one. I saw Mary Kay, and Mary Kay Cabot is, let me quickly run through what's going to be on the show. Mary Kay is going to be on. She's going to talk to us about roster cuts. She's also going to talk to us about an article that she wrote yesterday where she quotes an NFL official who is very concerned about Deshaun Watson moving forward. We're going to talk to her about that. Aditi Kinkhabwala is also on the show. We've got the trifecta of women reporters in the NFL. If you think about it, Mary Kay, first class. Aditi, of course, she's ours. But here in about 7 minutes, Cynthia Freeland of the NFL Network is going to be calling in. Cynthia's in the news today because yesterday on an NFL podcast, she told a story of an encounter she had with Baker Mayfield following the Bills-Panthers final preseason game. In which I'm sure you've heard it by now. McNuggets, you want to play it now or you want to hold it?
We'll take the tag board. Steve, you can punch tag board real quick.
If you haven't heard this,
so everyone understands before Cynthia.
So I'll just quickly set it up. Baker was leaving the field. Cynthia has known Baker for years. I worked with Cynthia for years at the ESPN Network, at ESPN. Now she's at the NFL Network.
Oh, she does Bill's sidelines?
Yes, she does.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
So if we can roll the clip from the podcast. Let's play it now.
Let's take it
play
now
it
so
when she
everyone's
comes
told.
on too. But
Steve,
everybody,
let's take
if you haven't
soundbite
heard
7.
this, here it is.
You ran into Baker Mayfield, the former Browns quarterback, recently, and I was hoping you could share an exchange that you had.
It was after the field, or on the field after the game against the Bills, this preseason game 3, and I walked up to him like, "I'm so excited to see you." Like, go, I was like, kick some butt. I didn't say that word, but kick some butt, kid. No, like, go kick some butt, especially week 1. I cannot wait. And he uses some expletives, and I was like, I just hope you're he's like, I'm gonna bleep them up.
Ooh, that's being the Cleveland Browns, the week 1 opponent
that's
of the
our week 1
Carolina
opponent.
Panthers.
Depending on.
So there you have it. No one's surprised that he would think that.
No.
I think the surprise is that it's out there now. Because we had said yesterday, I made a kind of flippant remark, we know Baker, we know who he is. He's going to give the Browns something before kickoff.
Right, which he has.
He has, but in this case, and it's going to be an interesting interview with Cynthia in 5 minutes. I love Cynthia. I think she's a tremendous person. I think she's very good at what she does. She's an analytics expert.
She's great at that.
She's
she does
great at analytics.
I watched the NFL Network show that she's on where she talks fantasy with Adam
awesome
Rank
with fantasy advice.
People. Yeah.
We talked briefly this morning. I don't want to give too much of it away. She said she doesn't quite see how this is a story. I disagree. And I don't know how this is going to go because I love Cynthia.
Doesn't this come down to how Baker felt about this? Like, did he consider this like a private conversation?
Or
is he screaming this on the field?
I don't think we have to go into that. I think it was an encounter. It wasn't an official media gathering.
Right.
It wasn't. I think when she said what she said, she probably would hope that wasn't on camera or picked up or talked about, particularly because she bleeped out her own expletive that she said when she talked to Baker.
Yeah.
It's a very fine line, and that line is getting fuzzier and fuzzier. The old school journalists will tell you that unless the person has agreed to a formal media session, then anything that might be said is off the record. Because it's not an official, if it's a conversation. Now, a lot of guys that I've talked to just coming up say, before they ever get into anything dicey, LeBron was great at this, off the record.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
As soon as you say that.
Baker clearly didn't say that. There wasn't time. They were two ships passing on the field.
Yeah, but that's fair game then. In my opinion, I'll go to bat for it.
Listen, there are opinions that say exactly what you say.
Don't say that.
And I think Cynthia obviously believes that.
My first reaction, I didn't even think about, was she breaking in confidence? And then you and Jason, we were having a group text, and you and Jason both said, hey, this is why, Jason made the point, and he tweeted it, and he said, this is why people hate the media.
Yeah.
I don't like that from Jason. I'm going to talk to him about it when I see him, because most of the reasons people hate the media are crap reasons and unfair reasons.
So we have about a 15% approval rating as a group.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no.
I don't buy that that's the case.
Well, you don't have to buy it. I'm just telling you that's
what's that based on?
That's what one poll after another. I saw one recently that said we have a 9% approval rating.
Sports media?
Media.
Well,
media.
we can't group sports media and political media together.
I don't know if there's been a poll done on sports media. Mikey, if you can find one, I'd be curious.
I can't imagine it's that
Here's what I'll say, and this is based on hundreds, not dozens, hundreds of conversations with athletes and even athletes that have crossed over to the media. They're always afraid to put on the dark hat, as they call it.
Right.
Because they know how they're going to be viewed by their former brethren. They know that. I remember I had a long conversation once with, I'm not going to get too specific with what he told me, so I'm not, I
couldn't tell if you were censoring yourself or if you were having a senior moment.
Yeah, it's both.
Okay.
It's both. I don't want to use this player's name because you would be able to figure out who he was, and I'm going to give you very specific things that he said. He covered a team that won many Super Bowls with a coach who's very controversial. And before he came over to ESPN, he had conversations with his former teammates and former coaches about how this would be viewed by them because his relationship with them supersedes everything. And players will tell you that. Those are the guys they jumped in the foxhole with. Their next move into the media is a career. It's a job. So there's always trepidation from players to do this. Some go in with both feet and they don't care.
Right.
And they come out guns blazing. Because now they realize, look, I'm going to put everything into as they should.
Yeah.
I've had conversations with players that came in tepidly, and I'm like, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
This isn't for you. We're going to ask you things that we're going to want specific, pointed answers, true opinion. And in truth, our contributors on our show run the gamut. We have some that give 0, and then we have some that are just toeing the line. They're I think you can figure out who they are.
I just did a tweet over the weekend, and you can pull it up. I'm sure you can find it. I said it. Sometimes I hate being in the media. I hate it. Sometimes I literally wish I did not do this because there's certain things that people kind of do that I think from a player's perspective or from a person who has relationships with people, I don't like some of the things that go into the game. I don't
like what specifically?
So there are people so I'll give you an example, right? There are people who that literally have vendettas against people, right? There are people that.
But aren't there players and aren't there people in other walks of life that have the same thing?
You're right.
He's
right. They're absolutely media members. Of course there are.
Yeah. But here's the thing: they don't write the narrative. You do. The media writes the narrative, and that. So just now, players are getting a platform where they can even have any sort of say in things But if you're the writer, if you're the narrator, that's powerful, right? Just like players have to watch what they do because they are, to a certain extent, public figures and role models to some people. It's the same thing with the media. Sometimes, if you're writing something, you got to think, you got to pull back and say, hold on. Where am I going with this? Because if I write this hurts a little bit, especially when you're talking about guys getting in the Hall of Fame. Accolades, those things. Just look. If you don't think it really matters, look at Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens was not a first ballot Hall of Fame.
But he got in the Hall of Fame.
But that's not the point.
Let me ask you this: do you think the players would do a better job of voting for the Hall of Fame? Because I don't think it'd be close. I think they'd suck at it.
No. But I think what I'm saying is the talent level of Terrell Owens. It's undeniable.
He was the first ballot Hall of Famer.
But in the end, what's the difference? He got in the second year.
It's his legacy. And if you say something about Bull, that's your legacy, right?
G. Bush, to your point, so players view the Hall of Fame as when you make it to the Hall of Fame, you're now an industry. You're an industry. You can throw bake sales and make as much money as you want. You want to do signing shows? There's a price tag that goes along with that. There are also tiers of Hall of Famers. And the first ballot Hall of Famer, that distinction is powerful.
You think he's not getting a good table at a restaurant because he's second year Hall of Fame?
No, but you know what? To my point of being different tiers, you know what? There are price tags that come along with appearances. And the first ballot Hall of Famer price tag is bigger.
Here's my problem with what you guys are saying is that you're doing what a lot of fans do, and you're lumping everybody together.
No.
And that's unfair.
No, I'm not.
When the players crap on media, do we care about that?
No,
that gets ignored all the
Listen,
time.
I do care about that, by the way. I do.
Yeah.
I said some people
I believe, and I'll rip, you know me, I'm not afraid to rip a fellow media member. I've done it, and I'll do it again. But I never lump everybody together.
You shouldn't.
And we should.
Wait.
And first of all,
you do lump people together.
I do?
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, how many times have you said, well, there's a typical white guy. You've said that on our show 20 times. Have you not?
Yeah, but I'm joking most of the time.
If you joke about the same thing 20 times, at some point it becomes your reality.
Okay, fine. So all white.
You do lump people together.
All white people.
And you know what? We all do that. I'm not going to beat you up for that because we all do that. And we shouldn't.
But you before lumped sports reporters with political reporters.
You're right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think under one umbrella, we're all media. Yeah. So under that, guys, we are. We all do the same thing.
Most media and the line is blurred as to who's media and who's not.
And that was my point.
And that's part of the problem.
And so quickly, do we have Cynthia? Is she on?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll wait.
She's logged on now. Give us 1 second.
Okay, so what I would say to that, here's what I'm struggling with today, and I'm struggling with it mightily because this connection to me is a personal friend.
Right.
I love Cynthia. I do. The first thing she said to me when I called her this morning was, "How's your family?" I love Cynthia.
She's on. We got her.
Let's bring her in. Cynthia Freeland of the NFL Network. Cynthia, we're obviously talking about the Baker Mayfield situation. And before we dive too deeply into it, we played the clip. I want you to, in your own words right now, sort of explain what happened and what the fallout has been from it since it dropped.
Okay.
And it's great to see you again. Let me start with that.
You too. I'm mid-move here. We got a lot of stuff in the background, but,
It's all good.
So all that happened was I shouldn't have shared a private conversation, although I stand by the fact that I'm pro Baker. I hope he succeeds. I hope he has a great career in Carolina. I walked up to him after the game. He looked great. Everything was, like he looked like he's happy. He's like having fun, God forbid. And I'm like, I hope you have a great season. I used some expletives like F them up. Like, I know Baker's spicy and, he's been spicy his whole career, but dating back to college. So, I said that, and then he just kind of agreed with me, and we were just, and I said, started off strong, go. And in fairness, like as a woman, especially in the media, like I would like him to beat his old team for a lot of reasons, but not the least of which is it feels like, a poetic story. You see a lot of athletes face their former teams, and you're like, go show them that they were wrong. Like, get out there and be positive. There's nothing negative.
So let me ask you this. I'm a little confused. So is he the one that started the F them up, or did you say F them up and he co-signed it?
I said this entire season, so not just the Browns, the entire seasons.
Right.
I said, go out there and kick some butt and F them up, meaning everyone. I said, started off strong week 1. I can't wait to see you out there week 1. It was not that nefarious at all. It was all pro Baker. And I shared it because I'm pro Baker, and I want everyone to succeed. I want everyone to get a second chance. I want everyone in life to get a fair shake. It was just, this being blown way out of proportion. And it's frustrating because, it's like people are being like, you're not professional. And you're right. I shouldn't have shared a private conversation, but I was sharing excitement for a person who is in a much better headspace, who looks great, he's in good form. I chose to share it. I shouldn't have shared it. I mean, okay, I shouldn't have shared it.
Have you spoken to him since, Cynthia?
No, I sent him a message, but his PR person just called me from the Panthers, and I'm sure I'll hear from the Browns too. It's not, where are all these people about the quarterback that's going to be playing week 11? That's my question, because my professionalism in question for encouraging him feels a little.
I personally, I can't speak for others, and I personally have no problem with you sharing that story. Part of that is because it gives, it's something interesting for us to talk about, not from your perspective, but just him saying that about the Browns. But that's who Baker is. It is not surprising that he would say that. I honestly didn't give any thought to you sharing that until somebody said it to me, and then I said, oh, maybe, I don't know. But you seem aggravated because obviously you had no, a lot of times when things like this get out, maybe the person has ill will. And it seems clear there was no ill will from you in this situation.
The exact opposite.
Right.
You know what? You're allowed I'm a very professional person. You can ask Jay. I have the amount of stuff that we all know compared to what we share is this much. I was saying on a podcast, I was showing a positive thing towards a player that has had a hard off season. No matter what, you have to admit that was a difficult off season for something. I shouldn't have shared it, whatever. Okay, got it. I'm never going to share anything that's told me again. I think that's also an interesting tactic for whatever. But, long story short, there was no negative intention. It was all about, I was encouraging him. I was like, the whole season, go get it. Like, I'm not going to swear on here, but I was swearing to him. I was like, go show everybody who's wrong. Be the guy who we want you to be.
Cynthia, I first of all, I want to take 1 second and absolutely back up what you said. I've worked with you long enough to know, and I know you as a person too, not just as a journalist. Not that you need me to co-sign for your character, but Cynthia, you know my feelings towards you as a person, and as a professional, and I also understand how these interactions go. And I think one of the things that's going to be debated today, and I'd love for you to weigh in on this, and I know you say, okay, I shouldn't have shared it, I was wrong. So we started the discussion by saying, kind of when there isn't a conversation between reporter and player about what's on and off the record, how does the industry operate? Because you're right. Typically, we share about this much of what we know. And most of what we don't share is because people have told us, and they've said, look, off the record or between us. Are those passing encounters between players and reporters fair game if nothing is discussed, or should they be looked at as off limits unless there's that conversation that they are okay?
I mean, probably should err on the side of off limits unless they say they're okay, which is why I won't do that again. Like, I say that with a little bit of disdain, and it's not the most genuine apology I've ever issued, because to be honest with you, what I said was that I said it first and he sort of agreed, which is not him even like, anyways, he didn't come up to me like, I'm going to blank them up. Like, that wasn't it at all. Like, it was a positive thing. My point was that there are people who encourage other people and like whatever. So you're right though, but as a general rule, you should, unless it's on the record, it's off the record. But I didn't, and yes, that I will 100% say, and I shouldn't have said it, and I will not say it again like that without being like, can I say that? Because I won't. But the reality is, as many of us, who are trying to support someone, it is a really nice way to support someone when you say, I saw with my eyes that they're good. I know the math that they're good. I can see their stats that they're doing better and whatever. And 3, I said it to him and he seemed like he was in a good mental place. Like to me, that's a stronger argument. There was no like, I wasn't sitting there trying to tell Baker to talk crap about. I like the Browns. I'm disappointed in the Deshaun situation, but I like the Browns. I love a lot of players on your team. I write so many great things about
I know
Nick
you do.
Chubb, Myles Garrett, like the whole secondary. Come on, like I spend a lot of time. This isn't like anti-Brown sentiment. Yes, I'm a little hurt by the Deshaun stuff. I am a female, and it's weird and it feels confusing. But it was as pro Baker. Who doesn't want to go back and get revenge on their ex?
Yeah, particularly Baker, who's done that a time or two and has sort of really built his brand on it. He's built his brand on proving others who have bet against him that they bet on the wrong pony, essentially. G. Bush, do you have something you want to say?
Cynthia, do you feel like, because I feel like this happens from time to time, do you feel like it's not about what you said, it's about what player you said it about? And in the case is Baker Mayfield, and he's a lightning rod. So if you would have said this about, I don't know, Kirk Cousins, it wouldn't have been a thing, right? It's just, do you believe that the person that this occurred with actually matters? And that's where we're at today.
100%. A lot of people pile on Baker because they want clicks or whatever. Like, please go look at my social media. I write articles. I don't do hot takes. That's not my vibe, like, ever. I literally never have. Like, I probably, I probably don't have as many Twitter followers because I don't do that. I was trying to support this person. If I had said it about Sam Darnold, same draft class, similar situation from another team, to be honest with you, I don't think anyone would have even noticed, other than, honestly, since he got hurt in that game, it would have been very inappropriate. But if the situation were reversed and he hadn't gotten hurt, I don't think anyone would have cared if I said it about Sam Darnold. That he was like, I'm going to go out there and get the Jets week 1. Who cared? No one would have cared.
Yeah, I would co-sign that. Yeah. I think Baker's a lightning rod one way or another. And part of
I didn't realize how much of a lightning rod, or I wouldn't have shared it. I was trying to be supportive of him. Truly.
Yeah. I do understand that. I know how you interact with. One of the reasons players love and respect you is because you treat them as human beings, not as football players. I've seen that firsthand for a long time, and
I could feel her frustration. I mean, I understand.
I can too, and I feel badly for you.
I think
Cynthia,
we've all had that.
Chin up.
We've all had that moment where we said something on the air that had no ill will or no bad intent, and somebody took it another way, or maybe it was even a way you didn't even think about it, and then it creates a life of its own. So, that's
Cynthia,
frustrating.
I want to do this because I have long touted you as the in my eyes, and it's clouded by my personal relationship with you, but I've always told anybody that wants to listen to what I think about analytics, if you want to read somebody and you want to follow somebody who knows it, in my view, not just as well as anybody, but I've always thought your strength is communicating numbers, which can be very confusing to fans in a digestible and understandable way. I think no one in the business does it as well as you do. So with that in mind, I would love to tap into that knowledge and ask you from an analytics standpoint. Like we always talk about, well, the Browns are going to be 6-5 by the time Deshaun Watson gets back on the field, and we're just all gobbledygook. Where are the Browns analytically in your mind as we get ready to go into week 1?
The Browns are in a good, well, first of all, the schedule for the Browns is favorable. So that's a good piece of news because a lot of teams underestimate the value of their first 4 games being achievable games, especially when you have some new faces on the team, some potential changes. When looking at your wide receiving core in general, like that's an area where I'm a little concerned about how it's all going to come together. I love Amari Cooper. I think he's a great player, but obviously it's a new team. There's a new system. There's 2 quarterbacks he has to get adjusted to. So that adjustment period is a big deal. So that's the first thing. Favorable schedule is good. I really like this defensive front. Clearly, this is like a very, very, very good defense. I like the secondary that backs it up. It's a really interesting, nice blend of, a lot of us in analytics get into the debate of what's more important, like lockdown corners or, the front. And my answer is both. So if you have both, then you're in good shape. So the question mark for me is a lot more about the ability for the wide receivers to get those big plays, which have been proven to be big chunk passing plays are very helpful in terms of determining wins. So that's the question mark for me coming out of the gate. But of course, and I can't get through this without saying how much I like Nick Chubb, and I think I like both of your running backs a lot, but it's an interesting note to have a guy like Nick Chubb not talked about maybe in terms of how valuable his extra 3-4 steps, those yards after contact. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Your producer is amazing. Nice. So it's the
Don't tell him that. That's all we need.
Good job.
Yeah.
Right. So it's those big chunk run yards. And by the way, everybody knew he has the ball. So, I as much as I like Kareem Hunt too. It's not anti that. It's just pro Nick Chubb, right? Those yards after contact are just really, really, really impressive. And those 20+ yard runs, we're looking at him right there. Those big plays are huge in terms of determining who wins football games.
By the way, and Cynthia does the football show, the fantasy football show on NFL Network, which I watch, and she got me aggravated because she says Justin Herbert's better than my boy Joe Burrow. But I get it; they're both great. But what's interesting when it comes to fantasy though is Nick Chubb is probably the biggest gap between great back but not great fantasy back. Is there anybody that's a bigger difference between actual back and fantasy back?
It depends on your scoring in a lot of ways because, some of these guys who are really good in scoring, if you're playing PPR, obviously, the guys who catch more balls are really, really valuable. So, and then, Derrick Henry doesn't have as much of a shared backfield situation. So there's no one vulturing his touchdowns. Right. But I think that there's you could make the argument that kind of in the reverse way, like an A.J. Dillon is a really good player that, he's nowhere near as good at valuable fantasy wise as Nick Chubb, but for the return on investment in those later rounds, like an A.J. Dillon who has more of a Nick Chubb profile with the Aaron Jones being the guy who gets more of the receptions, that's a good late round pick for sure.
Yeah. One other thing, not fantasy wise, although Kareem Hunt is a fine fantasy back when he has the opportunity, but there's been a lot of talk about trading Kareem Hunt. I think because Jacoby Brissett's the quarterback and you really have to rely on the running game the first 11 weeks, I think it's insane to think about trading Kareem Hunt Jay here wants to trade him for some slappy wide receiver. I don't
See,
know
there he goes, mischaracterizing me again. Cynthia, this is horrible.
This is what's wrong with the sports media right here.
What Jay said.
A slappy.
Media.
Sports
what
media
Jay
bias.
said, Cynthia, was
this is why
the Browns
2%
would be foolish
America
not
trusts
to
us.
listen to other offers.
Of course, but no, Cynthia.
I never said they should trade him. Go back and look at the tape.
But Cynthia, is there any chance a team would trade a really good wide receiver for Kareem Hunt? Just not going to happen, right?
It's hard because, you have to look at the landscape of wide receivers and also like the future, right? So I think we're in this weird bubble with like between NIL and the trade portal for college. So wide receivers might be a little dry compared to in this draft compared to the past two, because it is more lucrative for them to stay in college. So why would they go on this rookie pick? So point being, so you're in this weird loggerhead of like the wide receivers are becoming really, really valuable. We saw these wide receiver contracts of like $1 gazillion. So maybe there'll be something where some guys like some weird cap casualty along the way, but I think it'd be hard to get one of those top tier wideouts because people are going to need to keep them, especially given kind of what's potentially coming out of college or the fear of what's coming out of college or not coming out of college.
Let me ask you this question, Cynthia. Based on what you've looked at with film and based on what you've looked at in the numbers and out there in the ether, would you pay Lamar Jackson?
I would. I would. So all these contracts look a little weird. Like, you have to remember those voidable years at the end. Like, you have to get the real skinny on the contract, not the like, hey, newsflash, it really goes, this is coming full circle with bringing me on. You can't just read like the tweet that says, Kyler Murray gets $46.1 million per year, because it's really how the structure of the contract works. So I do think that you want to pay Lamar Jackson, but you need to make it work for how the Ravens' whole system works so that you can get all the right pieces around him as well. So it has to be the right contract, not just like this flashy, because you have to look through and read the entire contract of all. But I think Lamar Jackson is a guy who, those rush yards and the ability to, he gets more favorable passing situations because every single time defenses have to be like, well, this guy could just escape and run for 35 yards.
Cynthia, you made it clear what you think you hope is going to happen in week one. What do you really think is going to happen between the Panthers and the Browns? Do you have any predictions?
Yeah, I've already run like some models for, obviously barring any, I'm an asterisk here, barring any, weird thing happens with the 53 that I can't foresee today. But I do have the Browns winning that game. So
yes,
there we go. Here we go.
Yep.
Was it close in your model?
Look, everything looks close week one because week one we have the most uncertain, there's a lot of uncertainty. We're not sure what we're looking at.
Sure.
I can't remember I'd have to go look. I didn't prepare with the exact number, but I do know the Browns win it because my conversation was nothing to do with my math.
Right.
Cynthia, last year I wrongly predicted that the Steelers would finish under 500 for the first time in the Tomlin era. I'm double downing. I'm saying they're finishing under 500 again this year, even though I was wrong last year. Will I be right this year?
I don't think you'll be right, but not by a lot, because now you can't finish 500, right? So you think it's going to be 9-8. So I think it's going to be right around there, and mostly because their defense is so scary that, it's going to give them, their O-line is not the strength of the team. So their defense, though, is very strong. So it's hard for me to see how they don't sneak out some extra wins. It's a hard division that you guys are in. I have to look at their schedule completely, but I think I have them 9 wins.
It's tough.
Screw the haters.
Listen,
screw the haters.
Yeah, and it took courage for you to come on, and you met all this stuff head on, as I knew you would. It's great to see you again. Continued success to you, and thank you very much for making time for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And this is all, hopefully we can all enjoy the fact that this is a sport where we all want to F each other up. Like, that's the fun part, right?
That's right.
That's the whole idea of the sport. Yeah, that's the whole idea. Cynthia, thank you very much.